are talking about eliminating the offseason program entirely. So as it is right now, you show up like April 20th. It's 9 weeks, Sean. It's a 10th week of a mandatory minicamp. It's all voluntary, right? Most guys show up. And you're there 3 to 4 days a week for 4 to 6 hours. It's like the easiest job of all time. There is no stress, right? You're just hanging out with your buddies. It's when you build camaraderie. It's when you build friendships. It's when you get to know your coaches. It's a time to learn the playbook, Sean, without much stress of like having to go out and hit someone in training camp that same day. It's an opportunity for guys like myself who are young draft picks to learn the offense, learn the defense, get comfortable with the system, and then be able to go in training camp. They're talking about taking it away now in favor of a ramp-up period starting in mid-June or early July through the end of training camp and then playing the games. Now, this is obviously going to it's obviously going to conclude with 18 games, Sean, which you get another topic for another day. But I just don't understand why players hate like a fun part of the NFL, which is no stress, hanging out with your boys, lifting weights, and having camaraderie. Sean, I do not understand their hatred for the OTAs.
Well, I was never part of it. I know less about it than you do. I think there's
it's like spring football, Sean, without hitting.
It doesn't make sense to me, especially when you frame it that way, why you would want to trade that away for anything, any alternative. I guess maybe now that guys are doing more of this, make money away from football. You've got your side projects, your fashion, your podcasts, your other brands, your investments, whatever. Maybe people feel like more freedom in an off season is now a worthy trade-off because you can develop your portfolio, so to speak, outside of football without any requirement of you being there. When you say 4 hours of lifting and that's part of your salary or that's part of your that's part of your duties to the team, that sounds great. Sounds cool to me. I know there's definitely got to be good food at those facilities, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, there is now, yeah.
I know a lot of these people have wives and children that the reality of working at home every day is not always as all it's cracked up to be, right?
Yes.
So, like, I could see where a lot of guys would be like, no, man, like, don't trade this away, you young single pups, because I like being able to say, hey, mandatory, got to be there. I don't know. I think, you said it was a different topic for a different day. I don't know how much it really is. Because everything, when you talk about the NFL negotiating with the NFLPA, when you talk about these hemming and hawing, the log rolling, as it's called in business negotiations, when you talk about that,
guy. Look at you, fancy business guy.
I paid $50,000 to learn that term. When you talk about that, what you're really talking about is an eventual master plan move toward more revenue producing opportunities for the NFL, which is an 18-game regular season schedule, which is an extra, Christmas Day game, an extra Thanksgiving, Black Friday game. It's all these things that the NFL, probably has this master plan, because while everyone else is worried about playbooks and these players are worried about, their weight and they're worried about their 40 time and stuff, the big picture, the lawyers, the attorneys, the personnel managers in the NFL are worried about, okay, how do we get to a point where we bring in an extra $1 billion of revenue for this league that already brings in so many billions of dollars? And that's where these little movement of the pawns, they're playing, the players in a lot of cases are playing checkers while the NFL itself is playing chess.
And you're exactly right, because they're going to go to 18 games and we're going to have 2 buys. And then I don't know if we're going to get increased revenue. They'll pay us for the 18th game, Sean. So we'll get a little bit of bump in pay for that. But again, is it worth trading the offseason program that is easy and fun and you get to be with your boys and for the idea of an extra football game? Now we're all going to make money. I get it. They're going to make more money, but are you going to get expensive? Like if you're making 50% of the cap now, do you get 51%? No, you don't get anything different, right? You just get that paid for the one extra game. But let's talk schedule, okay? So in this new proposed schedule, Sean, let's go back. As I mentioned, you're off in like mid-June, then you train on your own until end of July and go to training camp. And then you would currently play 3 preseason games and go to the regular season. This new format, they're talking about mid-June to early July, going up for a ramp-up period, then in a training camp, then let's assume it's 2 preseason games now, and then 18 regular season games with 2 byes. So you're trading a schedule where you work for a chunk of time, you get 6 weeks off, which, by the way, coincides with summer break for your kids, which coincides with the ability to be with your friends and family and travel in the summer. Because would you rather travel a little bit when the weather's nice in June and July, or go in March? A lot of times June and July, Sean, better months to travel. Get to relax before training camp. In the new system they're proposing, you're going in mid-June. You're not done till January. That like the agreeing to basically be in quote unquote training camp from June 15th. You're going to look up, Sean, it'll be July 31st. You won't even have hit anyone yet. It had been 6 weeks. And your first preseason game is not till August 20th now in this new calendar. I don't think players think all these things through. Obviously, we can sit here and think all these things through on our own because we have the time to do so. Players think very much about like right now. And we hate offseason program and we don't want to be there and we'd rather do this. The trade-off is now you're going to be there from middle of June in quote unquote training camp mode. And also two other things before the idea of this ramp up period, right? Some players said, well, we did this during COVID. Yeah, you started at the end of July. So like training camp was just shortened that year for the ramp up period. But two, Sean, no offense to any NFL strength coaches who's listening right now and athletic trainers. I'd rather train with Duke Manyweather heading into training camp than a ramp up period at my facility for 6 weeks. And we've yet to see data. Everyone keeps saying that injuries are down. Where are injuries down? They had the most quarterbacks in league history start last season, Sean. Where are injuries down? Concussions, I think, are down. That's the one thing this training camp is helping with. But where are injuries down? As we have shortened the offseason program, I keep hearing, oh, injuries are down. The length of NFL career, Sean, has not changed at all. There's no injuries are not shortened down. So the reasons they're doing this for player safety and ramp up don't even apply. They're no tangible. We don't see evidence of these things happening. So look, I get it. If you're a player and you'd rather be at home from January to June, fine. We disagree on that. But the reasons they're stating for doing this, Sean, I don't think are there. The reason they want to do it is get a win. They want to quote unquote win to show their players, hey guys, we got something. We added an extra game on the back end of this. So that's why I think I disagree with this wholeheartedly, man. I don't think this is the right thing to do for NFL players.
Well, I think it's your points are well made. There is a difference of opinion. There's a preference for people when it comes to breaking up a work schedule, right?
Yeah.
And this is where I would find it impossible to be part of an association like the NFL Players Association, because I would be like what you're saying. I'd be like, dude, I would rather show up for like a little 6-week interlude in this mini camp, this off-season period, and then I'd rather have another 6 weeks off where that's when I tell my wife, all right, you want to plan a family vacation? We're taking the kids to Disney World. That's when you're doing it. They're out of school. I'm out of work. That's what's happening. And then you've got the shortest actual season, right? Training camp plus games is now the shortest possible. Yeah. It's not going to get any shorter than it is now that you got 17 games, right? So the idea that you would be adding on to the continuous workload for me would be like, no, man, I want the multiple break thing. I want a shorter season, and then I want the off-season break. And then, yeah, I'll go back to work for 6 weeks in kind of the spring, summer, and then I have my summer break again. Some people, I guess, might say, just let me rip the Band-Aid off, do it all at once. 6 months continuously, and then you do not get to call me again for another 6 months. Some people might like that. I would be in your category where I'd say, no, man, break this thing up for me. Especially because the way you have this mini camp situation, the off-season training program now, you get to go and you get to heal the bumps and the bruises, and you get to, kind of like tweak the things you need to tweak. You get to go back home and go to the drawing board a little bit if you're one of these bubble guys. This ramp-up period to me just stinks of an opportunity for coaches to when you're, a month away from even suiting up for training camp, starting to plan for your replacement. There's a lot of reasons I wouldn't like this change.
Well, it certainly doesn't help young players, Sean, which again, the NFLPA, it's not their job, I think, sometimes to look after young players, right? I mean, it's run by older players. They're not so concerned about rookies and first or second year players. But this certainly doesn't help, right? I mean, again, I was a 7th round pick. I needed every single opportunity to be in the field, Sean. And a lot of it was early in my career, learning the playbook and being able to get out there with my teammates in the spring. And you feel, it gives you, it go both ways, right? You can get confidence from it or realize like, I got a lot to work on. And both things, by the way, are good. They're both good to learn in the spring before you head to your first NFL training camp. And obviously camp is different now. So it's not the same thing that it was. I mean, we had to go in June and go do double days. I mean, that would be just absolutely miserable. I see the argument that no other league does this sort of offseason program schedule. That's certainly true. NBA does have summer league though, which is for young guys, right? That's sort of an OTA type activity. And baseball players, I mean, look, they show up in 8 weeks before the season starts. Like that's a different type of sport, Sean. There's no need to have. And by the way, some of those players go play overseas, right? Like they don't play overseas, the wrong way to put it, but in South America, right? Like they're playing for the entire offseason anyways. And so I don't agree.
Baseball is such an
different sport.
Apples to oranges comparison when it comes, because
Correct.
I mean, it's marathon versus Spartan race, basically. Like baseball is just this sort of long game, continuous. You got 8 minutes of action in a 3-hour game kind of situation. And football is, you're bashing your brain against something as hard as you can. And then, I mean, it's a physically life-changing game. And I also think I move to strike player safety from any publication, any sort of I just don't want it to even be talked about anymore. Player safety is not something that the league is concerned with.
Correct.
It's just not. Like they're concerned with revenue. Player safety is something that the NFLPA and the players, I guess, have to be concerned with. But even with that, you're willing to trade off a certain amount of player safety stuff for more money. So it's like I want to stop pretending that player safety is really going to make any decisions for us moving forward.
It never has and never will. Because 18 games is not about player safety. 18 games is about money, which, look, the players are fine with trading off. I'm not – 18 games is what it is. At this point, you have 17 games. 18 games with 2 buys doesn't make much of a difference, Sean, right? I mean, it just doesn't. But, yeah, nothing the NFL does is for player safety. It's for money. And players know that, though, right? I mean, there's not in my opinion, there's not like a surprise by that. The players are not surprised that the NFL is trying to make money over player safety. I do appreciate sometimes the players talking about it. I mean, it's as simple as there are teams going away from grass fields for turf fields. Like that's not for player safety. Player safety, you play on grass fields as much as possible because turf fields are not good for your body. More injuries happen on turf fields. No one cares. It doesn't matter in the end. So yeah, player safety it's not a thing the NFL seems to worry about.
Can I ask one thing about player safety before we move on to a different? They've cleared the way for those
Guardian caps.
Uglies. What are they called?
Guardian caps.
Yeah. Who is going to wear one? Who in the NFL is going to wear one in an actual game?
I could see a player coming off a concussion wearing them. I do not think anyone will voluntarily wear them, Sean, without having a previous concussion history.
I mean, there's that really ugly style of helmet that like Bosa and Kittle are wearing right now that is almost as bad. Who was it in the 90s? Derek Deese that wore like the second cap over his helmet?
Dana Stubblefield.
So it's effectively that, just an even uglier version of it.
The double helmet.
We'll see one or two, but man, those things are hideous, dude.
They're like you wear that Rydell concussion bucket. Here's another one to put on top of your head. Hope you're safe now. Hope you're safe. Okay.
Just that increased blunt force trauma. Like, oh, it's so good. Anyway.